Captain Marvel is the latest MCU film. It is directed by Annette Boden and Ryan Fleck, and it is about the character of Captain Marvel, played by Brie Larson. And I'm just going to acknowledge, because everyone is doing it and I'll do it as well, let's acknowledge the controversy behind this film. It's complete bullshit. Like, I've always been against those gender politics controversies. I just don't care. I just want good, well-made films. And if we can improve diversity in cinema, that's for the better. And there are a lot of great movies directed by females, starring females, movies with LGBT people, movies with black people, Asians. I love diversity in films, but I'm not one who's always trying to force it in films. I just don't really care in a purely... Let's say, yeah, I don't really care about it. I'm just more about the quality of the film. And if there is diversity, that's great. And Captain Marvel is the wrong film to get all riled up about, because guess what? Captain Marvel is a Marvel film. There is nothing more and nothing less to it. It's completely bland. Like, you've already seen all of this before in other Marvel movies. And in case you're new to the channel, welcome, first of all. And second, I'm not the biggest fan of superhero films, especially of Marvel movies, because I've always said this: I am not necessarily the biggest fan of the films by DC or by Fox, the superhero movies, but at least they try to do something different, and sometimes it pays off, like it paid off with Aquaman, and now it paid off with Logan. And Marvel has just perfected a formula that, unfortunately, in the end, is just a formula. And while it might work the first 4, 5, 6 times, when you're at the, 22nd movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you need something new, you need something different, especially when some directors like Taika Waititi have tried to at least make these films look different. And Captain Marvel, for being a sci-fi extravaganza, it looks painfully dull. It doesn't have particularly good cinematography, in the sense that most of it is shot in dark places. These dark corridors in these spaceships are just ugly. Everything has these murky colors to them. It's not a particularly pleasant film to look at. It has some action sequences. They work relatively well when they are lower scale, with 1, maximum 3 people fighting one another. And it does have the gigantic CGI space battles that are hollow. It does have a lot of jokes that don't land but aren't particularly offensive, so you just don't hate them. It's a completely harmless film, and I couldn't care less. And honestly, after having seen this, I wouldn't be surprised if watching Avengers Endgame, it just wouldn't have mattered to have seen this film, because the character of Captain Marvel, of Carol Danvers, is pretty standard, pretty generic stuff. You have your amnesia, you have your being with one side, think you're doing the good thing, and then sorry, and then rethinking about your entire life. It's like, you've seen this type of character arc in other movies before, and especially done better, because here the writing is incredibly lackluster. It just follows beat for beat for beat a simple origin story that moves along at a nice pace, which is a plus, but never gets particularly exciting or engaging. I was never on the edge of my seat, wanting to know what was going to happen next. It's like, yeah, it's not a bad film, but it does nothing special. The only noteworthy elements are, well, the chemistry between Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson. It was pretty fun, even though, unfortunately, like the character of Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury, a younger Nick Fury, since this film is set in the 90s, it doesn't really do much in the film. It's sad, it's, I would say, almost a pointless character, because he is fun to have around, he does have a couple of things to do, but in the grand scheme of things, it does nothing. Let's be honest, if you've seen the film, I hope you can agree with me, there is barely anything that it does that isn't there just for jokes or for exposition purposes, more in the beginning especially. But the other excellent thing, let's be honest, is the digital de-aging on Samuel L. Jackson and Clark Gregg's faces. Looks pretty great. It's scary to look at, honestly. But other than that, there is nothing noteworthy. I do like Brie Larson. I've loved her in other films. I liked her even in Kong Skull Island, in Free Fire, which is a really great little gem. But here she was fine. Like, no one is bad in this film. It's yeah, again, the soundtrack, it's usual generic Marvel soundtrack. The effects get overblown and pretty hollow in the third act. The story is like, honestly, I don't really even care to talk about this film. I couldn't care less, and if it weren't for the fact that, yeah, we're getting Avengers Endgame and that there's been a lot of controversy around this film, I probably wouldn't even have watched it. But it's not a question of trying to boycott it, because I don't care. As I've said in the beginning, I don't care about these things. I just want to see good films. And today is Women's Day. They released it in a time where we're supposed to... around a day that's quite important, sadly, to evaluate women more, which is unfortunate that we need, let's say, almost a holiday or a special day for that. It should be given for granted. We should just be thankful for everyone's lives, especially women, who are truly important in the world. But I don't really want to talk about this film. Like, these are the scores. It's bland, it's mediocre, nothing special. It's not bad, it's not particularly good or great. Mindless popcorn blockbuster fun. But I have something else to talk about. Since we're trying to celebrate women and everyone, including Brie Larson, are treating this film like this big-ass achievement, I say, fuck all that noise. You want to see good movies directed by women? Here is a list of names of women directors that I highly recommend you check out. Some of them you probably know, some of them probably not, so just trust me. If you're not a fan of Marvel movies, if you want to see more movies directed by women, go check these wonderful human beings out, because they've made some truly fantastic films, important, but unfortunately they aren't that famous for the general public. So here we go. The directors are Agnes Varda, Lynn Ramsey, Catherine Bigelow, Claire Denis, Ava DuVernay, Sofia Coppola, Karin Kusama, Andrea Arnold, Lucrezia Martel, and Chantal Ackerman. I highly recommend you check out these women. And I also recommend other directors like Patty Jenkins and all the other women-directed films from last year, including Chloe Zhao with The Rider. There are a lot of great female directors. And unfortunately, those are all small films, but they are wonderful, they are delightful. And I know that a lot of you just prefer to see mindless, entertaining popcorn flicks, and if that's just what you want out of a film, you're going to love Captain Marvel. You're gonna love the representation, the feminist statements that the film makes in very obvious ways, and that's fine, that's great. But I do also highly recommend you check out something more different, something more particular, something made even decades ago, so that you can see that women have always made great films, and they do need more recognition, especially these older ones who have made some truly terrific classics over the decades. So I highly recommend you don't go watch Captain Marvel, and instead you go watch movies from these directors. That's my recommendation. You're probably gonna watch Captain Marvel, you're gonna enjoy it because it is an enjoyable film, let's be honest, but it's not anything groundbreaking or truly exciting. So, again, go watch movies from these directors. Yeah, they are great. They've made truly fantastic films. But still, guys, have you actually watched any movie from one of these directors? Let me know, and let me know more female directors that you really like. And also, if you want, let's talk Captain Marvels in the comments, but as you can see, I don't really care. But still, guys, thanks as always for watching. To like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.